Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into another Justmisterp video.
This is the first video in the series entitled Unsolved. The first case is about Jonbenét Ramsey, but before I dive into the case, let me give you a brief synopsis. Jonbenét Patricia Ramsey was born August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia to her parents Jonbenét Ramsey and Patricia Patsy Ramsey, and an older brother, Burke Ramsey. Now, Jonbenét was moving up the ranks pretty fast as a young child, following in her mother's footsteps, who was also a beauty queen at a young age, winning Miss West Virginia in 1977. Now, her parents seen her talent and decided to coerce themselves into the business with her. During her run as a child beauty pageant queen, Jonbenét had ran through so many competitions. Her mother had her in everything in Boulder, Colorado, from the Little Miss Charlevoix competition, the American Royal Miss competition, the Little Miss Colorado competition, Colorado State All-Star Kids for CoverGirl Cosmetics, and also the National Tiny Miss Beauty. Alright, I gave a brief synopsis of Miss Jonbenét Ramsey, and now it's time to get dark. Now, the death of Jonbenét Ramsey happened on December 25th or 26th, 1996. I was a young kid when this happened. It was everywhere. It was all over the news media. There wasn't a place that it wasn't being talked about. Now, however, there were so many weird circumstances surrounding her death. But first, let's talk about how she died. Okay, now the official cause of death on record under the autopsy report is asphyxia by strangulation and craniocerebral trauma. Her death was ruled a homicide, and it generated nationwide public and media interest from everybody.
Jonbenét Ramsey, the little girl in Colorado, was murdered.
Beauty queen Jonbenét. Jonbenét's murder has frightened residents of Boulder.
Hundreds of reporters descended on the small city of Boulder, including Craig Lewis of the supermarket tabloid The Globe. His marching orders were clear.
Now, according to reports, shortly after 5 a.m. on December 26, 1996, Patsy Ramsey, who's Jonbenét's mother, had woke up in the middle of the night to find a ransom note addressed to her husband, John. Now, at first, she thought it was a joke, so she didn't say anything. She runs around the house looking to see if she sees Jonbenét, and in hopes of finding her, she doesn't. So she wakes up her husband, John, and between 5 o'clock and 5:25 is when they actually spent their time looking for her. 5:25 a.m. happens. Patsy calls the police, reporting her daughter missing and mentioning the ransom note to her husband, John.
911 emergency. Police. What's going on? 515th Street. What's going on there, ma'am?
We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please.
Explain to me what's going on, okay?
There's a note left and our daughter's gone.
A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter?
6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old.
How long ago was it?
I don't know. I just found the note. And my daughter's
Does it say who took her?
What?
Does it say who took her?
I don't know. There's a ransom note here.
It's a ransom note?
It says SBTC. Victory.
Now, it wasn't the 911 call that actually got my attention and rung bells for me. It was actually the ransom note. And I'm gonna read a few lines, if not, maybe the whole ransom note. The ransom note goes as follows. Ransom and Ramsey sound similar, but that's not a factor right now, so pay attention. Okay, Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We respect your business, but not the country it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $118,000 from your account. $100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining $18,000 will be in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be well rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you to not provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police or FBI, will result in your daughter being beheaded. If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You can try to deceive us, but be warned, we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try to outsmart us. Follow our instructions and you stand 100% of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny, as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that the killing will be that difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern comfort sense of yours. It's up to you now, John. Victory, SBTC. Okay, now Patsy's phone call to 911 mentions the ransom note to the 911 dispatcher. However, she fails to neglect mentioning to the 911 dispatcher that the ransom note was written specifically to her husband, John. I don't know whether it was because she was in a panic or it slipped her mind, or maybe that was a key fact that she just wanted to leave out in order to not implicate her or her husband. At this particular time, everybody within the household was a suspect. Patsy was a suspect, John was a suspect, and even her older brother, who was only 7 or 8 at the time, Burke, was a suspect. Now, the ransom note that I had mentioned earlier on in the video was specifically written for Jonbenét Ramsey, who at the time was a very wealthy businessman for a computer analytics company, and the paper used to write the ransom note was found on the desk of Pat Ramsey. Now, to my knowledge, for a kidnapper to come into your house in the middle of the night to steal your child or harm your child, and for them to have that much time to write 2.5 pages of ransom request, I have to say that that person obviously was a professional, and if it wasn't a professional, then it was an inside job by one of the family members. After getting off the phone with the police officers, Patricia Ramsey awaits their arrival, and they do arrive to the household. However, the household is already filled with neighbors and different people that John Ramsey had called, tainting the crime scene from the very beginning. They didn't want to speak with Pat Ramsey originally, they wanted to speak with her husband, John. Within the inside of the house, John Ramsey is standing around with his friends and his neighbors, explaining what's going on, sharing the ransom note. Everyone has touched this ransom note, potentially tainting it for any fingerprints or evidence that may possibly be on it, being that this is a so-called ransom note written by some stranger who wanted to hold his daughter captive for $118,000, which doesn't make any sense. And besides, as I stated before, this ransom note is too long. John speaking to the police served no purpose, as he tainted the crime scene, listening to an officer who informed him to start at the top floor and work his way down to the bottom, seeing if anything had been touched or is anything actually missing from the household.
Reporter Diane Diamond has covered the story from the beginning. She says the author of the ransom note seemed to know a lot about the family. The demand for $118,000 was close to the exact amount of John Ramsey's bonus that year.
A ransom note is not that long. A ransom note is not that long. A ransom note is not that long. A ransom note says, I have your child, I want $1 million, I'll call you later.
The first detective on the scene also did something that would radically compromise the case.
Linda Arndt tells the restless John, why don't you look around the house, see if anything is missing or looks strange. Start at the top and go to the bottom. But he didn't do that. He went to the basement first, where, of course, whoa, he finds his daughter's body.
John, while discovering the crime scene in the basement, he taints the crime scene even more once he goes down there and he actually touches his daughter's body. He sees her laying there on the floor with her mouth covered in tape, her hands bound behind her, and her wrapped around in a white blanket. Now he goes upstairs and grabs another blanket to put over her while carrying her up the stairs.
John Ramsey picked that little girl up, took the tape off of her mouth, and dragged her upstairs in his arms. And then the coup de grace. He grabs a blanket, which is full of who knows what kind of contaminants, and throws it over the body. Right then and there, the police investigation was tainted.
With all the evidence tampering that accidentally and intentionally happened, even the police couldn't find out what happened to Jonbenét. Here it is 22 years later and we're still questioning it. Now here in the conspiracy theory world, we don't know what exactly happened, we can only speculate. However, let me give you suspect number one and give my reasoning as to why. Now my suspect number one would be Jonbenét's own mother, Patricia Patsy Ramsey, who went by Patsy Ramsey during her heyday, winning multiple competitions on the beauty queen circuit. Now, once she had Jonbenét, she was a housewife at the time. She wasn't doing the beauty queen, beauty pageant thing that she was before. She had no way to do it, she was a lot older, so the only way she could actually get herself back into that world, which is what she loved, was through her daughter Jonbenét. Now Jonbenét, being a kid, she started this at 4 years old and did it up till the age of 6 until her death. Now we all know that for a 4 to 6 year old kid, this is not the career that they would choose for themselves. Many do choose this sort of thing for themselves by asking their parents, "Oh mom, I want to be a model, mom, I want to do this, mom, I want to do that." But she didn't. She actually would show her mom that she didn't want to do it, but only did it by force. Around this time, young Jonbenét had decided to tell her mom that she didn't want to actually be a beauty queen anymore. Her mother got enraged due to the fact that Jonbenét was the cash cow of the family besides her husband. To me, it's suspect as hell, as she's the one that found the ransom note at 5 in the morning. The ransom note was written with paper used from her personal desk within her home. We're not sure whose handwriting it is, but however, Patricia was the one to find the note. She possibly sat down there just before she decided to strangle her daughter and beat her, and wrote the note to keep herself from being suspect. June 24th, 2006, she passed away from ovarian cancer, taking away any information or any chance the public has at knowing what happened to Jonbenét. On to suspect number 2, which is Burke Ramsey, Jonbenét's brother. Now, Jonbenét's brother Burke, he was a regular kid. However, he was always virtually ignored by his parents. He won't say this publicly, but he was. He didn't get the same amount of attention that Jonbenét got, being that she was the star of the family. She was bringing in most of the money besides what his dad was bringing in from the computer company that he was helping to run. Now, I know all of my subscribers know all about sibling rivalry and how it happens where one parent will show more love and affection and attention towards one child more than the other, which can cause a rift between the two kids. Now, this is alleged, and this is just a speculation that I'm making, that Burke possibly was ignored and shunned by his parents due to him not being who his sister was as a famous child, and him being in a jealous rage, he possibly killed her. Since 2016, Burke has been in a lawsuit against CBS regarding their miniseries about Jonbenét's life. In the miniseries, they make allegations saying that he murdered his own sister. On to suspect number 3, which is Jonbenét Ramsey, who is Jonbenét's father. Now, he was a computer analytics specialist for a major computer company at the time during her death. Now, there's no reason as to why he would kill her. However, I can say she was killed because of him, if anything. Now, nobody knows for sure what his business dealings were like behind the scenes, personally with people, if he owed anyone potentially any money, like the $118,000 that was requested within the ransom note. Could that have been somebody that he owed money to that he didn't want to pay back, and that potentially cost his daughter her life. Jonbenét Ramsey, currently in 2018, is still a business manager of a computer analytics program. He still conducts interviews all over the world regarding his daughter's death. Stories have said that he spent literally almost every dime he had investigating into what happened to his daughter. Suspect number 4 is the mystery lady / pageant mom. Now, we all know how cutthroat these competitions get. These moms will do anything to get their daughters to actually win, including murder. We've heard it before. Now, they spend thousands of dollars on their daughters per year to see to it that these kids win. Now, with that being said, we're not sure if Pat Ramsey may have been friends with one of the moms. We've seen her house during the holidays. Her house was always welcoming and open to friends and family, and we know that at these pageants, these moms link up and become friends. One of them could have potentially hurt Jonbenét Ramsey. Could SBTC be the initials of one of the pageant moms? You be the judge. In 2018, 22 years later, the world still wonders what happened to Jonbenét Ramsey. The world doesn't know. Police doesn't know. Her family doesn't know. For now, it remains a mystery and remains unsolved. No disrespect was intended in the making of this video to any of the parties, living or deceased.